Hello, welcome to episode 1 of The Impending Doom. Sounds bad, but it's not really. In this video, in this episode, it's episode 1, right? So I should say who, what, and why. That's going to be the title of this episode. It is the title of this episode. If you're seeing this, then that is the title. Who, what, and why. So who? That's me. And I just want to say sorry for the low budget video quality. It's just, this is the best I can do right now. I've got OBS. I've watched a tutorial about setting up the microphone. I've watched a tutorial about getting the best out of the video, and I've played around with that a little. And I hope this is good enough. Just me and my laptop, a Genius webcam. I've got a pretty good microphone, but I don't know how to set it up. But yeah, I'll link the videos that taught me how to adjust my OBS settings and use the right audio filters. If the sound is good enough, then you want to copy it, find out from the source where I found out. I'm not going to teach you how to set up a microphone. I've only just followed the instructions myself. So back to who. I'm Mark. My name is Mark Jensen. Actually, my name is Eric Mark Jensen, but I don't like being called Eric. I changed to Mark when I was 10 years old. Yeah, so if you're going to call me Mark. I'm from New Zealand. That's maybe important. My accent, my voice, this is the voice of a New Zealander that has lived abroad for 9 years and been teaching English too. So my accent isn't pure native Kiwi, but it gets back to that when I talk to Kiwis. So if I spend a couple of hours talking to my mum or my sister, then my accent kind of comes back. Kiwis talk really fast, and we have interesting vowel sounds, like even the word, the name of our country, New Zealand. The land comes out as Lind, New Zealand. And for some New Zealanders, it's Lund, New Zealand. Uh, I try to say land, New Zealand, but it's just natural for me, New Zealand. And we call ourselves Kiwis because New Zealanders is quite a few syllables, and we like to reduce the number of syllables that we have to say. So Kiwi, I'm a Kiwi is easier to say than I'm a New Zealander or I am from New Zealand. Anyway, that's who I am, where I'm from. I wasn't born in New Zealand. I was born in Singapore. My father was uh, in the Air Force. It was 1973 during, I don't know when he was stationed, 1972 maybe, because no, it would have been 73. Because I'd been there about 6 months. I think my mother was pregnant with me when they went to Singapore. So in 1973, my father started a 3-year tour stationed in Changi, Singapore. It was like New Zealand and Australian troops were just, there was New Zealand. New Zealand and Australian troops were in Singapore ready to help. I think some of them did go to Vietnam supporting the Americans. I don't know if Kiwis fought against the Viet Cong, but medics and My uncle, who was military police, he was in the army. He was military police. He went to Vietnam. I don't know if he saw any action or if he was just on base, like a security guard. That's what military police do, I think. Yeah, my father didn't go to Vietnam. He went to Singapore, did his 3 years there. I think they did a full 3 year. He declined the invitation to, or he declined the posting to do another 3. And that's why he left the Air Force, I think, was that my mum didn't want to go back to Singapore. And so he declined the post for a second tour. And either she didn't want to go back or she didn't want to stay. And so he left. He discharged. My uncle and cousins and aunt, they went there twice. They were there at the same time as us, and they went back again. My uncle stayed in the army. My father left the Air Force. Yeah. So, born in Singapore, returned to New Zealand. Didn't return. Arrived in New Zealand when I was about 2 years old, and I was there. Until my older sister got married in Surfers Paradise. First time I left New Zealand, I was about 26, I think. 26, 27. Yeah. I've still got my old passport, so in a future episode I might talk about where I've been and get my passports out and go through the stamps. Yeah, so that's me. That's the Who. 49. Yeah, I said I was born in 73. I'm 49 years old. I'll be 50 this year if I make it that far. Impending doom, of course, impending doom. I should say a little bit about that, but that's later. That's part of the why, isn't it? Yeah, the why. Why the impending doom? Why episode 1 and anything else that comes after? Well, let's get in ahead. Let's say what first. The impending doom. It's my personal broadcast. It's not personal if it's a broadcast. It's public. I'm putting myself out there onto the YouTubes, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. That's a text message. My wife liking a message I sent her in WhatsApp. Okay. What was I saying? What? Yes, what? I don't know. Podcast. It's fashionable. So this is a podcast. What I really want to do is write. But I don't know if I want to write or I want to have written. You know, the result is attractive to me, appealing. I want the result. I want to have a book that I wrote, and I want it to be published, and I want other people to read it, and I want to get money for that. I want to be paid for being a writer. I want to write a book, publish it, and then have that as my primary income so that I can write another book. But that's result focused. I want the result. I want to be a writer or have written. The process is a little bit harder to enjoy. I like thinking of stories. I have a few that I have at least 3 books in my head. I think it's about a matter of discipline and procrastination. Procrastination, if you don't know, is a fear of failure. It's complicated. It's different for everybody, but the main element of procrastination is motivated by a fear of failure. In me, I learnt that. I've been procrastinating less since I learnt that. So, yeah, knowing the name of a thing gives you power over it. that's fairy magic, but it's actually true. Knowing that my procrastination is coming out of a fear of failure has helped me manage it a lot better. But I still haven't written a book, but I do want to. So I recently, or over the past few months, maybe half a year, I've been transcribing something my grandmother wrote, and I've taken scans of the typed pages that were sent to me by my mum, taken scans of the typed pages and read them to my computer using the built-in speech-to-text software in Microsoft Word, and it's very good. Or am I using Windows now? Is it voice typing? I don't know if it's Windows or Word. I think it's the Windows one is better than the Word one. I don't know. Anyway, I've used a few of them, and the one I'm using now is just sits there on my screen whenever I click on a text box. I can do voice typing, and I like it. It's very good. Some of the punctuation and stuff needs to be edited. Some of the words don't come out right, but for the most part, it's very good. So I've nearly finished transcribing this story that my grandmother wrote about 30 years ago. And the story is about her mother's childhood, or that's when it's set. It's not about her mother's childhood, but my great grandmother is a character in the story that's based on true events. So the story starts in 1915, so over 100 years ago, and there are parts of it about New Zealand or Anzac troops in their experience in World War One in Gallipoli and the Battle of the Somme in France. And there is stuff about my grandmother's mother's family. It's a short story. It's 6 chapters of about 3 or 4 pages each, with a epilogue. And the process of reading the story to my computer and then editing and correcting, getting an accurate transcription. Next, my mother and I want to add what we can. I want to correct some things, just grammatically, and there's a few things. We'll talk about that later. It's okay. I don't know. We will or not. But there are things that we want to change and we want to add to it. There's some things unexplained in the story. And there's also my grandmother clearly had a grudge against her own grandfather. And that comes out strongly in the story. And I would like to maybe tone that down a bit. She had a grudge against him. My grandmother's Catholic, very strong Catholic her whole life. Her grandfather was not a Catholic, although his wife was. He wasn't. He was. I've forgotten. It's a sect. It's still Christian, but a sect of. I've forgotten the name. Here I've been writing this story, or rewriting, transcribing the story, and I've forgotten the name of their sect. Anyway, like a cult, like a little cult, but in New Zealand, yeah, not quite a cult, not full separatist, but just not Catholic. And in the story, my grandmother doesn't explain why he became a member of this sect, why he was or wasn't. Mentions a couple of times or once that he converted, and anyway, stuff to add, stuff to change, and there's one mention about the shoeing a horse. He was putting a horseshoe on a horse, and he had it in the forge, and he'd been hammering it and shaping it, and then he put it onto the horse's hoof, and there's a description of the smell of the burning keratin. It's like, that's not right. They wouldn't put a hot shoe. And also, should a horseshoe be untempered? Then it would be soft. I don't know if it's supposed to be soft. Maybe that is. Maybe it's supposed to be soft. But why would why would the shoe go on the horse and burn the foot, the hoof? Not causing pain, but burning the keratin, so that there was a smell in the air. Like, this is a description in the story, and it didn't make sense when I read it. I was like, that. So I went and looked, and I found a farrier's manual from 1915, and it specifically says in there that putting the hot shoe on the horse's hoof should be avoided. So I felt my instincts were right there. Now, when resizing, like they have standard sizes, but you want the shoe to really fit the hoof, so you would hold it up and maybe heat it and widen it or make it narrower, but then you wouldn't nail it onto the hoof while it was hot. You would need to heat it to reshape it or resize it, but you wouldn't then nail it on while it was hot. So I want to change that too before it goes any further. Another message from my lovely wife. Okay. I need to put my phone on silent next time I do this. Okay, so that's not really what, is it? Still, what and why are kind of the same thing. What I'm doing, podcast episodes, video diary, I don't know. Yeah, a video diary, but not day-to-day stuff. Stories. Tell stories, and also talk about what I think, and maybe try and figure out why I think that. Okay, now back to the story. Where was I? Why? Yeah, I got into why. I've been talking about why, but now the impending doom. Yes, I've had a sense of impending doom for most of my life. Like whenever the future is considered, whenever I consider the future, there just doesn't seem to be one. I've had trouble thinking ahead too far. Like now is easy. I'm always aware of, well, not always. I am very aware of now and where I am. Planning for the future has never come easily to me, because I always come back to why. Well, is it really going to be there? When I was in my younger years, friends and family thought I had a death wish, that I wanted to die, that I was trying to die. But I didn't. I was just having fun, enjoying my life, having fun. But I used to get into quite tricky situations and came close to death so many times. In fact, there's a story about that I want to tell about how I did die one time. Not through misadventure, not through actions of my own, but just the situation. Um, it's another story. It's one of the stories I want to tell. And again, why? Because I have a renewed sense of impending doom. It's renewed. The general feeling of impending doom that I've lived with my entire life has elevated because I had a blood clot in my brain almost 2 months ago. A stroke. I had a stroke. But is a blood clot in my brain. That's what the stroke was. And I'm recovering. I mean, you might notice that I don't look like I've had a stroke, except for around here. I've got a bit of kind of like muscle structural loss. I don't know. My face isn't quite the same as it was. My eyes. This one is a bit different. And tingling. I'm taking the medicine. I've got hypertension. I'm dealing with that. I'm measuring my blood pressure. I'm doing all this. There's no reason for me to feel like I'm going to die soon, but I do feel like that anyway. Uh, it's not like I'm afraid though. I'm not afraid of dying. I just think it's going to happen. I don't go out on the street and think, oh, I'm going to get hit by a bus or oh, an airplane's going to follow me. I don't have this irrational fear. It's not anxiety. I'm not afraid. I just think that it will happen. That despite any efforts, um, despite any plans or desires I have, that I will not be here for very long. And I don't know. I don't think I'm right, but it is the feeling because I am always surprised, always my whole life. I've lived with it. I've learnt to live with it, and I don't talk about it very much. But I just since the stroke, I think it's actually getting closer. But I cannot express how surprised I am at being 49. When I was 25, I would never have said to anybody that I would be alive at 49. I had no expectations to live this long. So uh, anyway, enough of that. The real why is because I have two young sons, and they're 9 and 6 years old. And if I do die soon, um, they won't they won't know me very well. Like they know me now, but they won't know me when they're 20. So I want to say the things now, here, and they can watch when they're older. They can have this, uh, so they can know me. And I talk to my mum a lot, and we've become a lot closer since I moved away. It's strange, but we talk more and more interesting conversations. So what I think about stuff. I like talking to my mum about what I think about stuff, what she thinks about stuff. We talk about all sorts of stuff. I'm Buddhist, she's Rosicrucian, but we have some similar ideas, or we can have find a consensus, even though like we've got very very different world views. How to live and how to be happy and stuff like that is very similar. So the what's behind the teachings or what's behind the knowledge or the faith or whatever is different, but the practice is similar. And so we have very interesting conversations, and she might she might miss our conversations. I won't miss our conversation. When I'm dead, I won't be there. There's a big difference in our worldviews right there. When I die, I will not exist. the stuff of me will exist, but the me that I talk, the one that's talking now won't exist. Now, for my mum, that's not true. For her, she believes that the personality continues, but she may not say it in such a way, but the person continues to exist. And I think the person is mostly imaginary. And as soon as the body is not feeding into that imagination, it's going to cease. Anyway, yeah, so Impending Doom, video record talking about myself, my stories, my views, all of that. I don't want to get into current events too much and popular opinions and stuff. I think there's enough of that out there, and I don't want to give people advice. I just want to talk about me. And I keep remembering, whenever I think that's like what I want to do is talk. I keep thinking about Sandor Clegane in the when he had Arya. He was trying to get her north, and they go into that roadside. What would you call it? Inn. It was an inn. Yeah, an inn. And he says to the Lannister soldier, "You're a talker. Listening to talkers makes me thirsty." And then he said, "I'm going to have to eat all of the chickens." So yeah, I keep remembering that. You're a talker. Yeah, I'm a talker. I want to talk. It's my job. I professionally I teach English, and I talk. I want to write. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to try and use this talking as a transition to writing. So until I have turned myself into a writer, I'm going to lean on the talking, and here we go. So that rambling. Anyway, that's the who, the what, and the why. If anyone watches this, if you have any questions, I will try to answer them in future episodes. And I don't know what the frequency is going to be. I don't think it's going to matter because I don't think anyone's going to watch this for a long time. And by that time, hopefully, there will be quite the library of episodes. And so frequency won't be an issue. But I still do want to do this regularly. It's episode 1, though. I've started something so many times, and I don't really follow through. But I've enjoyed this. I hope when I watch it, it'll say, yeah, it's good enough. Give it a share. Put it out there, and then it'll be there. So I'm going to stop. Okay. Talking makes me thirsty. Okay.